Very good morning, good afternoon to you all. We're here live from Cape Town, Cape Town Conversations, the first maiden event of ORF in South Africa, as we witness the end of India's G20 presidency and the beginning of Brazil's, followed by South Africa. Very excited to have two wonderful panelists with us, and we'll be talking about the future of work today. So just to introduce our panelists, we have Alison Gillwald, who's the Executive Director, Research ICT Africa. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am. And we have Mr. Lukovi Seke, Program Officer, Technology, NEPAD, with us as well. So I think we'll just jump into the questions right away. And I'd like to start by asking, how do you think policy priorities can be developed to ensure people are prepared and skilled for new opportunities in work? And I know you both have your areas of expertise, so if you could, answer with those highlights.
Thank you. Should I go ahead then?
Absolutely.
I think often the issue of future of work is addressed in terms of the very sort of high-level, high-tech skills that we need, data scientists and engineering, digital engineers and architecture and design and that sort of thing. But I think what a lot of our work shows is that you've also got people who are recipients of that, those kinds of developments. And in fact, the determinants of participation, digital participation, in terms of internet access, in terms of being able to use platforms for platform work and those kinds of things, are determined by levels of education. So if as a nation you want to be able to develop conditions for decent work, we really, particularly in Africa where our research is focused, need to focus on really fundamental basic education that's missing. So basic literacy. Of course, digital literacy can help sort of patch stuff, but it needs to be kind of embedded in part of that, so that there are, and then of course, the development of those special STEM skills and things that you need that we're very short on in order to develop more specialized skills. But the bulk of people are going to be engaged in the future of work as, either very, micro workers, so, just using very much the front end of these technologies, not requiring those kind of back-end skills. And on the other side, are just going to be users or consumers of some of these products and services. And at the moment, the bulk of African people, the mass of African people, neither have access to those digital services, and when they do, minimally, most of them minimally, do not have the skills to actively use them, transact effectively, and certainly not produce and contribute to the wealth of nations, to the prosperity of nations.
Great. Thank you for those thoughts. What about your comments?
Oh, thank you indeed. I will give the perspective from the African Union perspective, because I'm from the African Union Development Agency. First of all, we should first understand that we have a vision on the continent, known as Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. So we are the African Union. But beyond that, we are also the United Nations, because all our head of state and government go to New York for the United Nations General Assembly. So, and above all, we should also understand we are in a knowledge-based and innovation-led economy. It means that we can never rely on our resources anymore. We have to transform them. And the first wealth we have represents our population. So now, for us to come up with a miracle based on various priorities, because each country is led by its national development plan. And that national development plan should be supported by various thematic priorities. So in an economy which is well developed in terms of technology, maybe now they are focusing on other aspects, like social aspect, healthcare aspect with caregiver and so forth. And when it's come to our economy, we have various issues. And you will discover that Sustainable Development Goal number 9, where we have industrialization, innovation, and infrastructure is key. So how may we boost a population where we don't have energy? How may they be able to use internet? It's impossible. what can we do if there is no capability to innovate? That is another issue. Is why what we do at the continental level, there is a minimum target. Each country should invest at least 1% of its GDP into research or scientific capability. Why are we doing so? We measure the level of investment in research for countries to come up with evidence-based policy in terms of science and technology, where we have the capability in terms of knowledge product. But on the other hand, we also have the issue of innovation for country to be competitive. So now what is going to happen with the future perspective of work? So we need to consider the issue of emerging technologies that we call mainly radical innovation. Among them, we have drone, we have Internet of Things, we have artificial intelligence, we have robotics, we have even gene drive, with precision medicine. We even have the issue of precision agriculture. So it requires that we change the curricula of our kids. But we don't have the same, we are not at the same stage. So it means that what we can do for country X is not what we have to do for country Z. So those aspects should really be considered. So nowadays, we have to innovate or perish. And that is the reason why in some places, we have to do research or we disappear, because nowadays we have what we call global competition, which is very aggressive. And beyond that, we now have the African competition through the African Free Trade Continental Area. So if a country cannot really make sure firms are becoming productive and to have the right workforce in terms of engineers, all those people, so you are going to disappear. So this is a must now to move ahead with all those new talent.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for those varied comments on the question. Just as a follow-up, so how do you think government and business can ensure responsive action with regard to skill development and vocational training to make sure they're inclusive and sustainable in the long term?
Can I take? And then,
Sure.
Thank you very much. We should understand first the objective. The country has a mandate to secure the population. So it's not really given to government sector to do business. They can do maybe in strategic area for sovereignty like water and electricity. They can control and then that company will be a parastatal company. But when we go to firms for them, they have the homo economicus mindset to maximize the profit and to minimize the cost. So it's very difficult to expect something from firms because they need labor force now, and like if it was yesterday. So it's up to the government to change the way of doing things. Some of the countries should make sure that they even go beyond basic education, free basic education, to take free tertiary education is also important. And in doing that, to push most of the students to become also entrepreneurial through startup, because we don't need to have a huge number of PhD candidates who are unemployed, let's say 70,000. So all those aspects require that the government should lead the show. And later on, the private sector, through corporate responsibility, they should also give up to the community. If we don't flag that, so they don't care. They have to move ahead and they need to make profit. So nowadays we are on the same planet. We have the common future as far as the motto of T20 under India was concerned. So we need at least to call most of our firms to have the human heart. Even though we understand it's very difficult for them, is money that is always the core of their business.
And anything you'd like to add?
Thank you. I think, as I said before, I think education is at the heart of the solution. And the problem is that we've got really sort of very fundamental challenges around education. So it's very difficult to fix that in the short term. These are kind of multi-generational things, but we've got to get, the sooner we get those plans in place, obviously the better the pipelines are for these sort of things. So there are a number of really interesting initiatives. For example, we have Hylde-Mbuta, which is a job creator. It actually brings together companies and young people who they train in everything from now coding to data science, and they match these companies and identify for these companies areas of work that they not even really aware that they could use and have, and that sort of thing. So it's a very exciting project. And at the time that I last checked on it, it had only been operating for about 5 years at that time, it had already changed sort of hundreds and thousands of people and joined like 50,000 companies, etc., and spreading across the continent. So there are these wonderful public NGO, sort of private initiatives that are happening very successfully. I think our government, many of our states don't have the resources to be able to fund a lot of these things, but they can create the enabling environment that incentivizes these kinds of national and regional initiatives. I think the real challenge is that a lot of new jobs are actually part of the global economy, and they're part of big tech that we have very little control over, and certainly, although they're initiatives from big tech across the continent, giving back and some training, quite honestly, these are tiny amounts of money that are actually coming back. And so I think, we really need to look at total state formation. We need to be looking at how we better access those global digital taxes that are being proposed so that we can get that revenue generation, we can get that investment back in our, social investment and back into our economies in order to create that skill. And as I said, really all the way through the education cycle, yeah.
Right. Just, to further add to that and hear your perspectives, how do you think there can be better cross-country comparability and recognition, mutual recognition of skills and qualifications? And, you gave multiple examples, but how can they be more, standardized, universal, so that there's easier flow of people from place to place?
So, I think that's an enormous challenge. I think we've got a lot of potential at the moment, and there are a lot of opportunities on the continent because of the African Union's initiatives around, Agenda 2063, of course, as has been mentioned, but around the digital transformation strategy, around the African Union data policy framework that precisely creates the conditions for the continental free trade area, for free flow of goods and services and data, but at the moment not such good flow of people, and often in terms of getting the kind of skills that we want, spread across the continent, there are enormous limitations on human mobility, and a lot of the smart young people are getting scholarships going overseas, not coming back into the continent. And so a lot of the support that comes from overseas actually doesn't build institutions, local educational institutions, but takes people into those external institutions, sometimes with the hope that they'll come back, but very often not with the requirement that they come back into our institutions and build that capacity.
Right.
Yeah, what I can also add on that is that, as I was saying, each country has its own natural endowment and its own priority. And as Africa is concerned, we don't have the responsibility to be ranking countries, and you didn't ask us to rank country in terms of comparability to work together. Indeed, there is a possibility because we have frameworks toward the achievement of goals of the 50 vision. So in terms of implementing those frameworks, and I'm coming from the science, technology, and innovation portfolio at the African Union Development Agency. So what is happening is that we need to train countries based on various flagship programs, and also to do advocacy in terms of investment in research. That's not only a recommendation from African Union head of certain government, but we also have it as a target of Sustainable Development Goal number 9, especially target 9.5. Each country should increase its spending in R&D, in research, and to increase the number of researchers. So, and you'll see that throughout research, we have natural sciences, engineering, health, agricultural sciences, and veterinary, we have social sciences, and we have humanity and art. So all those aspects will require that we work together. And beyond the continent, because we cannot just remain in silo or in otaki as Africa. We also have some program or initiative like what we have nowadays, the African Union, European Union Innovation Agenda, with 4 thematic areas, starting with public health, green transition, capacity for science, and also innovation and for technology. What is happening? Through COVID, we understood that we have the same blood. So we got fatality everywhere. So we cannot afford to leave ourselves in silo. We have to work as one planet. So that's what I can say. There is a possibility to go through bilateral, but let us also leverage on the pioneer and to see what we can do, especially India. You start with a good background in IT, and we are seeing the fruit today. So we can learn from that experience, and through this network, T20 is great indeed. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. I think we've had a very insightful, crisp, 15-minute insight into the future of work. And I think for now we'll sign off. Thank you so much.